Finish. Button.
Asa, you gonna get the mic? You know how to get it? Oh, they still praying. Okay. Yeah, inshallah. I'll just wait till I hear them finish, but at least the mic is on. You know how to bring it? You know how to bring it here? Without, huh? Oh, it's here? No, okay. It's not going off here. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. We continue with Kitaabul Jaami and Bulugh al-Maram. Shaykh al-Islam al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah ta'ala, wa nasallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala nafa'ana bih. Naam. Yes, it came out. It's clear. Thank you. We are with Kitab al-Bab ماذا البر والصلة. الباب البر والصلة, chapter of being obedient, being kind, being dutiful, giving servitude to the parents, and keeping the family ties. We mentioned the Shaykh Muhammad al-Salih, Muhammad al-Salih al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala. He gave the definition of al-birru. He said al-birru kathru ata'. Al-birru kathru ata'. Bir here means giving a lot of obedience to your parents. Giving a lot of obedience and dutifulness towards the parents. He said, وَصِلَّ هُوَ صِفَةُ عَاطِفٍ. It is the description that's following what the Shaykh intends by the larger picture of birru, which is righteous deeds. So here, the keeping the family ties is a further description of what is coming before the word of family ties in Arabic, sulla, which is the word bir, the beginning of the birru, meaning righteousness in general. Here it means being righteous, obedient, dutiful, kind, servitude towards the parents. So the Shaykh, he says that, and that's Imam Muhammad al-Salih al-Uthaymeen rahimahullah, in his explanation of this great treatise. He said the issue of keeping the family ties, it normally refers to what they call al-Qurba, and they translate al-Qurba as the close and distant kinfolks. So you have your parents, your mother, and your father. Then you have your immediate family, which is your siblings. And then you have, after that, your aunts, your uncles. You also have your grandparents. So normally, Shaykh he said, what's considered, as there's a lot of talk about what is the kith and kin, or the qurba in Arabic, close family relatives. Then he said they normally say three things to scholars when they give a definition to qurba, close family relatives. He said some of them say this means everybody that's connected to you. So that would mean your mother, your father. Of course, it includes your aunts and uncles, nieces, nephews. It would include your grandparents, your great-grand, the second great-grand, the third great-grand, the fourth, all the way back as far as you can go. And he said that that would be too extensive to keep that type of relation, because remember the book or the chapter is wasilla. Wasilla means staying connected to the family. So he said if you took that meaning, it will be too unbearable. There's no way you can stay connected with all of those people. He said, and then some say that the qurba, the close relatives, it means those that are connected to the great-grandparents all the way back to your fourth great-grandparent all the way down. So that would mean starting at your fourth great-grandparents, everybody that's below them, of course, would be considered your close relatives. And then everybody beyond them, meaning their parents, he said that would be too extensive as well. He said, so what most of the scholars said, from the fourth great-grandparent on down, this is what's considered close relatives. This is what's considered close relatives. So it's not every single person connected to you, because that would mean all of your ancestors, probably all the way back to Adam. There's no way whoever's alive you can keep, And then if you said it starts at your fourth grandparents, but it includes their parents and their parents' parents, that's still too extensive. So most scholars said close relatives, this term that's associated with the relations that you should keep, it starts at the fourth grandparent. So that would mean your fourth grandparent, the third, the second, then your grandparents. So that means your grandparents, parents. And he said this is what they like to use, the scholars and the historians Islamically, because this is what was exhilarated and exemplified during the life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that started from his fourth grandfather on down. Those people could not accept charity, because Allah prohibited that. The Prophet's family, Bani Hashim, the tribe of the Hashemites, they could not receive any charity. And so therefore the scholars said, using that as an example, that's his fourth grandfather, meaning if you come down great-grand, and then, like this, going backwards, or your great-grand, then their parents, and their parents, then your grands, then he said this is the extent of what's considered close family ties. So you see, this is a magnificent issue, the Kitaabul, yani al-Bab al-Bir wa-Sulla, the chapter, the book of being dutiful, being obedient, being considerate, being a service and giving servitude to the parents, as we reiterate, whether they be Muslim, non-Muslim, male or female, that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala includes in this command. And then you have wasilla, wasilla, yani silatu arham wal aqarib, keeping the ties with the immediate family and the close family, as they say, kith and kin. Now, so this is very extensive, and there's a lot of talk on how to do it. Some scholars have mentioned, if they're your neighbors, then they have more right on you, because not only they're your close relatives, they're your neighbors. So you owe them two types of generosities and considerations, and they have two rights towards you, as a close relative and as a neighbor. Some said then if they're Muslim, then they have three rights on you as a Muslim, rights on you as a neighbor, and rights on you as a what? Close family relative. And then there's a lot of talk about even if the person distanced themselves from you, how do you keep family ties? Prophet mentioned that family ties is not that they keep it and you keep it, but family ties is that they break it and you keep it. If they break relations, they avoid to abandon you while you don't abandon them. And some said that if you make dua for them, if you ask about them, like this, then this is considered keeping family ties. Now, playing. The first hadith the Shaikh he brings, Shaykh al-Islam al-Hafiz al-Hajj al-Asqalani, in this book, Bab al-Bir wa-Silla, the chapter or the book of being dutiful, obedient, being subservient to the parents and keeping the family ties, the hadith of Abu Hurairah. Abi Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم من أحب أن يبسط رزقه وأثره فماذا فيسل رحمه أخرجه Bukhari wa Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ in his hadith Abu Hurairah, Abu Hurairah said that it's reported from the Prophet, he said, whoever desires to have two things done. He wants to have his provisions increased. He wants to have his provisions increased. His provisions meaning that which he has coming to him or she has coming to her during their lifetime. And also, whosoever likes to have their lifespan extended. So the Prophet has mentioned two things here. Whosoever likes to have his provisions increased, his provisions, his food, his drink, his clothing, his resources. And some scholars, they said also risk means, this is the term in Arabic, risk they translate as provision. Some scholars said this includes your religious affairs too, such as knowledge, what you are able to learn and comprehend. They also call that a type of provision. As Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, he said, "Ar-rizqu kulla ma yanfa'u bihi al-badan." Everything that the body benefits from, he said, then this is what's understood as rizqah. This is what is to be understood as a provision. As his student, the great scholar Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, wrote a book called Zad al-Ma'ad. Zad al-Ma'ad. And this book they translated as the the provisions of the hereafter. But of course, everything in the book was talking about what you do while you're alive. So this is one of the concepts that they mentioned, that provision is not just I go to work, I get a check, someone owes me money, has to pay me back. It's not just my food in the refrigerator, my drink in my cup. It's not my clothes, my shoes only, but it also includes all of your resources, everything you benefit from, everything that your body can utilize spiritually, physically, mentally, socially, and therefore, thus the scholars, they include Islamic knowledge as a type of provision. Islamic knowledge, knowledge of the deen, norm and rizqah, it's a type of provision. In this note, Imam Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, he mentioned that the scholars, they mentioned this of the past and the present. So here the Prophet said, man yani ahabba man, yani, whoever likes to. And this is, the Shaikh, he said, this is a general phrase. In Arabic, man means whosoever. So this means nobody's excluded. Anybody that is in the business of having his provision increased, anybody that would like to have time added to his or her life, then the Prophet is including this. He's including them in this term when he says man. Now, so whosoever, Sallallahu mentioned this, ahabba, he would like to, he would love, ahabba. This is a strong language. Hub, love, ahabba. That person he likes, he loves, he wants. And yubsata, I need to have his something stretched out, something increased. What is it? Rizqihi, his provision. And imagine, like you say, yeah, man, I'm trying to make ends meet. I'm trying to, stretch a dollar. Here the Prophet is saying, whoever wants his provision to be increased, or atharihi, his lifespan to be increased, then let that person do what? Let him keep his family ties. So this hadith is an encouragement to do two things. Strive to have your provision increased as well as your lifespan, and to believe that there's a way to have that done, that is keeping the family ties. So the Prophet is teaching us in this hadith two things. That there are ways to achieve something, and then there's an objective to go after. And so the question many people ask, they say, wait a minute, how can my provision be increased? How can my lifespan be increased if Allah already decreed everybody's provision? If Allah already said so-and-so is going to have this much wealth in his life, if Allah already said so-and-so is to die at age such and such, then how could the Prophet come after that and say whoever would like to have his provision increased and his lifespan increased, and let him do family ties? This is some dilemma that people they have. So how is it, what do you think that the Prophet is intending when he says to have your provision increased and your lifespan increased, while we know the concept in Islam, Allah already decreed, decided everyone's lifespan and their provision. So what is the Prophet intending here? Anybody? Jannah. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Jannah. He's intending that the person strives for Jannah. That's a good answer, because the next hadith of Salam is going to mention something you should stay away from that will prevent you from Jannah, and something you should rush towards because it will allow you Jannah. And it is the issue of family ties. Very good. And many scholars have said that the Prophet is encouraging by telling you this type of poetic way, whosoever would like to have his provision increased, his lifespan increased, and let him keep family ties. Because everybody wants to have more wealth and more time on earth. Anybody else? What is the Prophet ﷺ intending with this statement, if Allah already decided for everyone their amount of provisions and their lifespan?
It could be that the lifespan, it becomes packed with, more dense with good deeds. So it's the same life, but it's a weightier.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah, barakallahu fikum. Now, this is a good take as well, that Allah's Messenger sallam is inciting a person to increase and to feel and to make their life packed with good deeds, because anyone who does the likes of what will lead to the paradise, then that means he's doing it a lot. Shaikh, what they mean, he said that the term birru here, although it's general, it's talking about the parents. He said, and the meaning here that's intended, kathru ata'a, it means a lot of obedience. He didn't just say obedience. He didn't just say servitude, kindness. He said a lot. Yeah, so this is a good meaning, to make your life filled, consistent, packed with those righteous deeds, that it's a win-win situation for you in this life and the hereafter. Now, anybody else? What did the Prophet ﷺ, what was he intending when he mentioned whosoever like to have his or her provisions increased along with the lifespan, then let them observe family ties. Hey, this is the very thing that the scholars, they mentioned the Prophet is inciting a person to do these deeds, while some have said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did mention the Quran, in Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bih. Allah will not forgive you if you die upon shirk. Allah will not forgive you if you die upon shirk. Many of the scholars said this means the major shirk. Many of the scholars, they said this means if you die upon major shirk, Allah is intending here, He will not forgive you. Some have added shirk here is general, so it includes even minor shirk, but the difference between the two is if a person dies on minor shirk, then Allah Azza wa Jal will bring him forth on the day of judgment with his deeds. If his bad deeds are more than his good deeds, while he has minor shirk, then he will burn in the fire for a period of time, as minor shirk is still a major sin, although it's minor in the degree of shirk, making partners with Allah. Although it does not make you a disbeliever, although it does not allow you to burn forever, if Allah does not forgive you, you have to purify from every sin, including minor shirk. So some scholars said what's meant here, even minor shirk, if your bad deeds are more and Allah doesn't forgive you, then you do the time if you were a believer, and then you will come out and go to Jannah. And some said if your good deeds are more while you died on minor shirk, then Allah, because of the amount of good deeds, after His mercy, then He will forgive you, and you will not go into the hellfire even for a period of time. While others said this ayat, although it's general, Allah will not forgive that you make shirk with Him, meaning die upon shirk. They said it means the major shirk. Now, and then Allah said, وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَن يَشَاءُ. Allah will forgive anything else to whoever He likes. And some said this means including the one who does not honor the parents, obey the parents, neither keep family ties. So some of them have said that this is in that category, and that the Prophet only used this language, whosoever wants to increase his provision and lifespan, to encourage, and not the opposite holds true. Whosoever does not want to increase, and whosoever does not keep the family ties, whosoever does not obey the parents and be dutiful, then they will have a decrease in wealth, they will have a decrease in goodness, and they will be punishable in the hellfire. And some scholars said the opposite is to be assumed from what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, this hadith. Whosoever likes to have his provision increased and his lifespan, then let him keep his family ties. Now, let him keep the family ties. Then the next hadith, the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned Abu Hurairah, لا يدخل الجنة لا يدخل الجنة القاطع. Now, the one here, the Prophet mentioned قاطع, the one who's breaking something. And here the scholar said what's meant by this word, the one who breaks the family ties. That's the second hadith in the Kitaabul yani al-birr wa silla, keeping the obedience to the parents and family ties. So that hadith, you learn a lot of things from that. Imam Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said the first one is that there is something that the Prophet did in the beginning. He said, whosoever wants to have his provision increased and his lifespan. So he did something to incite you to an action, something they call targheeb, to make you desire that thing, Then the second hadith, he came back and did tarhib, made you not want to do something, made you feel as if you have to flee from that thing. And as he said, whosoever breaks the family ties, he won't enter the Jannah. La yadkhul Jannah al-khatir. You will not enter the paradise so as long as you break the family ties. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَاءَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامِ. Now, talking about fearing Allah as it relates to the issue of the family ties, and it includes the parents. So this is one of the benefits we learn from the likes of these type of hadith. Sometimes the Prophet is going to encourage you to do something because of his greatness, such as being obedient, being dutiful, having a lot of good deeds and actions, statements, as well as physical activity, interaction between you and your parents. Then other times Prophet is going to caution you, make you want to run the other way, such as La yadkhul Jannah, you won't enter the paradise. And what's understood, the opposite, as Prophet mentioned the other hadith, whosoever wants to include or increase their lifespan and their risk, also whoever wants to go to paradise, let them connect the family ties, let them keep good relations. This is the opposite to be understood from the hadith. As the Prophet said, La yadkhulu, none will enter the paradise who does this and this. Then the opposite is to be assumed. Whoever does this, he will enter the paradise. So one is a targhib, to encourage you, and the other is a tarhib, to make you flee from the action because of the loathsomeness, the great evil of that, the great danger of that action. So this the Prophet mentioned in this hadith. And we said that the previous class where the book of manners was being taught from the Sahih al-Bukhari, some of these hadith you have heard, you have seen. Revision is a must. And for those who did not encounter those hadith, then you are adding to your checklist, alhamdulillah. So this is the two hadith that we mentioned tonight as we started the book of being obedient to the parents and keeping the family ties. As the Prophet also connected this to the issue of talking about Ramadan. When Jibril came to him, which the origin of this hadith is in Sahih Muslim. There's another version in the Musnad of Imam Ahmed, where Jibril he came, and the Prophet went up the steps of the minbar, meaning the pulpit, and each step he said, Ameen, out loud, Ameen, out loud, Ameen, out loud, 3 times. Then he turned around. So the companions asked him, when it was over, why were you saying Ameen when you went up the steps? As the word, the Ameen, normally it means you agree with something or you're asking Allah to accept something. So no one was there that they can see, but Jibril came to him, and Jibril was not making himself visible. Only the Prophet knew he was there and seen him. So he said, Jibril came to me, and Jibril mentioned, he said, man said man adaraka Ramadana, whoever lives to see the month of Ramadan come in, they are Muslim in other words. Walam yakfir lahu dunuba, and as a result of that Ramadan coming and going, that person still didn't get no sins forgiven. Now imagine, Ramadan comes in, people are fired up. Yeah, Ramadan is coming. Even the people that don't come around, they come around. And then you go through all of the abandoning food, drink in the daytime, sexual intercourse in the daytime, talking vanity and foolishness, and still keeping up your salah. As people forget, you still have to pray 5 daily prayer, giving charity, so forth. And then guess what? One day, on the day when you stand before Allah, you find out you didn't get any sins forgiven for that Ramadan. Imagine that feeling. Prophet said that whoever lives to see Ramadan, witnesses the month of Ramadan as a Muslim, and doesn't have his sins forgiven because of that Ramadan, that's the reason the Ramadan comes, to purify you and to make you better, but you miss out. He said, Dakhal al-nar, may he be put in the fire. He said, that's what Jibril said. And Jibril said, Ameen. He said, so I said, Ameen too. He said, then the Prophet said, Waman sami'a dhikri walam yusallam alayya yani dakhala an-nar. He said, whoever witnesses my name being said, meaning him, the Prophet sallallahu. Jibril is talking about the Prophet. He said, whoever witnessed the Prophet's name being said, and that person doesn't say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some scholars said this even means if you read in the book and you see the Prophet's name, it also includes someone says Muhammad, or you yourself say Muhammad and you don't say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Allah commanded you, inna Allaha wal malaikatu yusalluna ala nabi. Verily Allah and the angels, they send salutations. But Allah sending salutations here doesn't mean he's going to say protect Muhammad, forgive Muhammad, because he's the one who does that. So the ayat, when Allah talks about himself, yusalluna, the word we would say salams, he's talking about bestowing mercy on the Prophet. As for the angels, then they ask Allah to have mercy on the Prophet, forgive the Prophet, give him the great things you promised him on the day of judgment. So Salah here for the angels means dua. Salah for Allah means that he's bragging about the Prophet, giving a nice word about the Prophet. He is saying good about the Prophet, and he himself is, talking about what he's going to give the Prophet himself in this life and the hereafter. So this concept, people understand that you have to do it, no matter where you're at. It's a big discussion. Do you do it in the Jummah or not? The Prophet mentioned many things about Jummah. One of them, you should be quiet in Jummah. He said, so much so if you say to your neighbor, shh, so you blew, you've blown your reward for Jummah. That's less than saying sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And somebody, he might mention 4 hadith, he might mention the Prophet's name 2 or 3 times. Imagine shh versus sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's a whole sentence in dua. So some have said in Jumu'ah there's an exception to the rule, because the Prophet commanded you to be quiet. Others have said that the Prophet mentioned in general, so even in Jumu'ah you say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Others said you say it in a way that you don't disturb the people in a low tones like this. And these are the different takes about the salam to the Prophet. But here Jibril is saying, whoever hears it in a general way, and he does not mention the salat, he does not ask Allah to make the Prophet safe in his grave, to shower his mercy upon him, to give him all of the great things in the day of judgment. Jibril said that may he be in the fire. فَدَخَلَ النَّارِ. And then the Prophet said, Jibril said after that dua, may that person who hears the Prophet name, he don't say sallam, may he be in the fire. The Prophet said, so I said Ameen as well. Some scholars said if you hear the Prophet's name mentioned, as long as you say sallallahu alaihi wasallam at least once in that sitting, is sufficient. Just like the issue of a person, mashallah, tabarakallah, when he drinks, the Prophet said, when you drink, to say Bismillah. And some people understand if I drink 3 times, say Bismillah the first time. He said when you finish, say Alhamdulillah. So I said Alhamdulillah. Then I drink again, Bismillah. Then I finish, it's swallowed, Alhamdulillah. Then I drink. Others understand, no, that's not what's intended. The Prophet mentioned in the beginning, you say Bismillah, and in the end, you say Alhamdulillah. The point is that whichever way you understand it, know the importance and the seriousness of not saying Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when you hear the Prophet's name although it be once in a sitting or more. Then the last thing, which is the highlight as we're talking about family relations, being dutiful to parents, he said, Jibril said, Man adraka abawayhi, whoever lives to see both of his parents or one of his parents alive, walam yabirhuma, and he's not dutiful, he's not patient, he's not tolerable, he's not kind, he's not obedient to those parents, what do you think Jibril said? May he go to paradise? What did he say? They go to hell. Hey, what? Faqala Jibril, Ameen. What you think the prophet said? No, Jibril, don't say that. What do you think the prophet said? Ameen. Hey, what? So this is how far the issue of birrul walidain, being obedient to the parents, goes. It's big, you know. And again, there's some people in their ignorance, they say, "Oh, well, my mother's a kafir." La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. What difference does it make? You're gonna go to hell for disobeying, displeasing, being rude to your parent just because she's a disbeliever? Her disbelief is that serious? You're willing to go to hell for that? Doesn't make a difference whether she is a Muslim or not a Muslim, because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "La yadkhulul jannah al-qati'." So this is general. Nobody will enter the paradise if you break the family ties. And the first in line is your parents. First in line is your parents. Now, so this is important, and this is from the two hadith that we mentioned from Kitaabul, the chapter or the book of being dutiful, being obedient, being kind, being subservient. All those terms fit into the category of the word in English. We talk about dutiful to the parents, the word bir. And wasilla, keeping the family ties to the relatives, as Shaikh said again, going back as far as the fourth grandfather, back down towards you. And some have said all of the family, and some have said the branches, the furor, the branches of the fourth grandfather, which would mean his brothers and sisters. But some said that's too extensive as well. Back to the fourth generation, down to you. This is what most of the scholars have mentioned as your close relatives, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. And inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala, by the next class we will have some stuff on the slide. Hopefully we'll use the projector. If not, on Sunday, a week from today, Thursday, inshallah, we'll be prepared to bring the slide, the camera, the projector, so that people can see the notes and the hadith. Inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala. We ask Allah for His help. We ask Allah for sincerity, truthfulness. We ask Allah to make us from those who keep the family ties and to keep the family relations. And lastly, many of the ulama, they said what is inclusive in family ties is when the parents die. When the parents die, they said if the parents were Muslim, you make dua for them. If the parents were Muslim, you make dua for them. And that is excluded for the non-Muslim, because after the one who's non-Muslim dies on disbelief, Allah prohibits that you make dua that Allah forgives them, have mercy upon them like this. And even the Prophet ﷺ, his parents, they died. They were non-Muslim. If anyone was given a pass because of their parents, it would have been the Prophet. He didn't get a pass from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَذَلِكَ Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim, he didn't get a pass. His father died and he worshiped the idols. And Allah Azza wa Jalla sent ayat down about asking about their forgiveness and so forth. So this, if the parent is a Muslim and they die, part of the being dutiful, kind, obedient, you keep making dua for them. You keep making dua for them. And then they said, and if the parents had close friends, we know this especially from our culture here in America. My mom has a friend, she's almost like an aunt. When you were little, she would watch you, play or tell you, don't do this, don't do that. send you in the house when it's time for you to eat, or she would be almost like yani khala or ammat, like your aunt or your mother or father's side. So your mom expect you when she's sick, you go visit her. If she needs something from the store, you buy something from the store for her, take out her trash. They said even when those people, when your parents die and those people are still left behind, part of dutifulness, part of bir to the parents, you still keep up that practice as if your parents were alive. Because your parents would want you to do that. They would be happy if they knew you were still keeping up that practice. So these are some of the benefits from being dutiful, having bir towards the parents. Allahu musta'an. نسأل تبارك وتعالى يكتب لنا حسنا على ميزاننا في الدنيا والآخرة. We ask Allah to give us a good reward in this life and hereafter. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam Muhammad. Any question, comments, or corrections?
What's that test again?
The test is going to be in about 2 weeks, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, and it will be like 2 weeks after the like this class that we'll have on Sunday. It'll be 2 weeks after Sunday, inshallah. Any change, I will let people know, inshallah. And the test will be easy, so don't worry. Any questions, comments, corrections?
So it's just for the parents, like you don't have to be like kind or dutiful to like brothers or sisters.
No, brothers and sisters are included. When we talk about keeping family relations, it includes kindness. But it's emphasized with the parents because Allah Himself mentioned this secondly in the Quran as a rule of worship, a rule of paying back to the parents after He talked about how we should be with Him. And many scholars said the reason Allah mentioned Himself, because no one can be mentioned before Allah, how you should be with Allah, your duty to Allah, and then He mentioned the parents right after, is to show the great responsibility that the children have to the parents and the great need and right of the parent to be respected in this way. So that's why the parents are being emphasized, but it doesn't exclude anybody in your family, whether it be your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your niece, your grandparents. You have to be dutiful. Even just last night, we were mentioning to some of the youth, and the Prophet said, "Ma kana rifqan fi shay'in illa zana." Rifq, this word in Arabic, it means to be gentle, to be kind, to be inviting, to be mannerable. It includes a lot of things. Prophet said it won't be in a thing, an environment, a person, a setting, a household, a relationship, except it will make that thing beautiful. وَمَا نُزِعَ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا شَانَ. It will not be extracted from a situation, a relationship, a person, a place, an environment, except it's going to make that situation ugly, repugnant. The Prophet also said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ رَفِيقًا وَيُحِبُّ الرِّفْقَ. Allah is the most gentle. Rafiq, Allah wasn't fa'il, is to be emphasized, gentleness. Allah is very gentle, gives a lot of generosity, is very kind, nice, respectful, and He loves you to exemplify that too. The Prophet he said, وَأَنْ مَاذَا وَأَنْ يُطَى إِلَى النَّاسِ كما يحب أن يعطي أو كما قال, and that you act towards the people the way that you would like them to act towards you. Prophet said, "Man kana yu'minuna billahi wal yawm al-akhir." Who believe in Allah on the last day. He believe in heaven, hell. He believe punishment and delight. He believe the questions in the grave. He's scared of it. Prophet said, فَلَا يَأْذِ الْجَارِحِ. Let him not annoy his neighbor. How was that possible except being kind to the neighbor? Prophet ﷺ also mentioned, لا ترجعوا إلى الكفار تضربوا الرقاب بعضكم بعض أو كما قال. Do not return to the actions of before Islam, the days of before Iman, the days of kufr, jahiliyyah, ignorance, where you were striking the sword at the necks of one another. He said, يعني المسلمون كالبنيان يشدهم بعضهم بعضا. The believers are like a solid structure. They should support one another. The Prophet he said, وَكُونُوا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ مَاذَا إِخْوَانًا. Naam, and be servants to Allah, but brothers to one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ وَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. Oh, you who believe, verily the believers are brothers, so fix what you have between. Prophet he said, "Istawsi bin nisaa khayra." Be gentle, kind to the women. There's so many texts in the Quran about being kind, generosity, working together, even between your siblings. Even between your siblings. Now, it's a refutation of those who say Islam is hate religion, terrorism, this, that, that. It's full of splendor with etiquettes and how to act and, that which is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the creation. So yes, be kind to your siblings. It's not just being dutiful to the parent. It includes part of the society at large, including your siblings. And Allah knows best. Now, صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا هو استغفر واتوب اليه جزاكم الله خير السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
Recording. Finish. Button.